Okay, so today we're diving into how to really nail those job interviews, and you send us some stuff about this, and yeah, the big takeaway I think is just being yourself.
Right, right. And if you want to get this information quickly and not feel overwhelmed, understanding why authenticity is important is really important. It can really make the whole process so much smoother.
You gave us some texts about job interviews, right? And we pulled out what we think are the most important points.
Hmm.
And our goal today is to help you see just how powerful it can be to be genuine in your job interviews. We'll also give you some practical tips on how to do it. So let's just jump right in. What does it actually mean to be authentic in a job interview?
Well, in the simplest terms, it just means being honest,
Yeah.
right? And showing who you truly are, both your strengths and the areas where you're still growing. Like, don't be afraid to show that you're still learning.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But why do interviewers, why do they care so much about whether you're being authentic or not?
Yeah. I think it comes down to trust, right? They want to know if you're going to be a reliable employee, someone they can count on to be honest and do the job well. And, when you're genuine, it helps them see that, helps them see your character. It also gives them a better sense whether you'll be a good fit for their company culture. So it's really about giving them a clearer picture of who you are.
Okay, so being authentic is key, but how do you actually do that in a way that, still helps you make a good impression? It can feel like you need to put on a show sometimes.
Yeah, I get that. One thing that can really help, that I found really helpful, is doing your research. Take some time to learn about the company, what they value, what their mission is, and then you can kind of not tailor who you are, but tailor the way you present yourself to align with those values. So it's not about changing who you are; it's more about emphasizing the parts of you that naturally connect with what they're looking for.
Makes sense. It's about showing how you fit in without pretending to be someone you're not. What else can we do to, really showcase our authentic selves?
So when they ask you about your experiences, like tell me about a time when you did this, or tell me about a challenge you faced, or whatever, there's this method called the STAR method. Have you heard of that?
I have heard of the STAR method.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically you start by describing the situation, right? Give them the context, then talk about the task, what you needed to accomplish, and then, what action you took, and finally the result, what happened. And what I think is really great about this method is it helps you tell your story in a very clear and concise way. So you're not rambling or getting lost in the details. It keeps things focused and it lets your skills and experience really shine through.
That's super helpful. I like that a lot. What about when they ask about a time you messed up, like a time you fail or a time you made a mistake? How do you talk about those things authentically without making yourself look bad? Right, that can be tough. But I think the key here is to focus on what you learned from the experience, right? So instead of dwelling on the mistake itself, talk about the lessons you took away from it and how it helped you grow. It shows that you're self aware and that you can learn from your mistakes. And it turns what might seem like a negative into a positive.
Yeah, yeah. That's a really good point. It's about framing it as a learning experience. What about just like showing that you're interested in the job without, going overboard or being fake? Are there little things we can do to convey that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, nonverbal communication is huge here. Things like making eye contact, when the interviewer's talking, look at them, engage with them, and a firm handshake, that can go a long way. A good handshake shows confidence. And even just your posture, right? Sitting up straight, leaning in a little bit, shows that you're engaged and interested. All of these little things send a message that you're taking the interview seriously and that you're genuinely interested in the opportunity.
Yeah, those little things can really make a difference. And what else? What else is there on being yourself and doing well in the interview?
Something that I think is sometimes overlooked is listening, right? Really listening to what the interviewer is saying. Pay attention to their questions. Think about what they're really asking, and then tailor your answers to address those specific points. It shows that you're engaged, that you're respectful of their time, and that you're really trying to understand what they're looking for.
So as we wrap this up, what's the one thing you want listeners to take away from this deep dive? About being themselves in job interviews.
I think the most important thing is to remember that being genuine, being authentic, is the best way to make a real connection and find a job that's truly the right fit for you. It might not be the easiest path, but it's definitely the most rewarding.
That's a great point. So as you're thinking about your next interview, think about what makes you unique. Think about what you bring to the table. And then ask yourself, What's one small step I can take to let that shine through? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.